In this episode, we want to talk a bit about a little aha I put together for myself recently around people who are not supportive or understand what you're doing. And of course, this is around the spiritual part of who we are, since we are all about that unseen part of us. And so, there's a lot around, what people are going through, what the people, especially the people they're living with. So I can tell you from my experience that my previous relationship, my previous family, they didn't get what I was going through. They didn't get what I was experiencing, what I was coming home every day and going, blah, blah, blah. Let me show you what the weird crap I went through today. It would be like a deer in headlights. And it's literally a deer in headlights at the dinner table. And I'm like, but where I'm at now and looking back at that, which has been, quite a few years later, I just put together and recognized some big picture aspects around how people mirror us and, what I'm magnetizing towards me as a relationship or as something that I can heal for myself. So, and looking back at that previous relationship, I recognized that the people didn't understand what I was going through, what I was experiencing. You know why? Because I didn't understand it. So that's just a very small mirror of what I can take away from that understanding as a bigger picture of, why they didn't get me. Because I didn't know what I was going through. I didn't know what energy was all about. I didn't know how sensitive I was. And so looking back at that, understanding and seeing that relationship and that, exploration of that in that kind of light has helped me so very much, because it makes me really realize for them and myself, we were all just really where we were at, and it's okay. So I'd love for your perspective, Tom, on, I know you have some different perspectives on this because you raised Catholic. And so you have some different, things that you can bring into the mix here. So I'd love for you to share a little what that means to you.
Well, I found through my spiritual evolution, and as I, first became more aware of the spiritual side of life and started exploring that, it met with mixed reactions from the people around me. And in some ways, there was a little bit of support, but not too much support, and you mentioned that I was raised Catholic, so it deviated from some folks' ideas of what being Catholic is. And, one of the big differences between a religious idea and a spiritual idea, for myself anyway, is that the religious really puts God outside of me. It's something I need to worship, or it's something I need to look to for saving or salvation and being taken care of or whatever. And when it comes to my spiritual side, I'm beginning to realize, or I've realized, it's really about me. I'm my own best savior, so to speak, in that if I'm tuned into that bigger picture of that love energy, that creative loving force that, some people would call God or the universe, and I am one with it, then, that's a path that, provides, a better life for me, really. And now there's nothing wrong with religion in the sense that it does provide structure for people. And I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody, but when, I look at some of the things that were shared over the years, with me, even in religious circumstances, that, God is within. So, from that perspective, we're going to get to what you're talking about. And that, there's a sense of blaming others for their reactions to me. Or there's a sense of blaming others, even in the spiritual world, or people with spiritual beliefs, I should say. They will think, oh, somebody's thinking about me, so they're, I'm picking up on that pressure, or, there's confusion around me, so and they blame the confusion. And what I've learned is that there's got to be a little something in me, that's attracting that. So like attracts like from a spiritual energy point of view. like we're all big magnets. And what I hear you saying, or one way I've looked at those kinds of experiences that, I attract people around me that are going to provide me some good spiritual lessons. So one has to ask oneself, or I've had to ask myself at different times, so what was I learning about that? My thrust is to be happy and free. So how did I maintain that happiness and freedom, within that situation? Or did I find that challenging? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so I love that like attracts like. And I guess what comes to me about all this and in relationships, especially those close with us, and it's not even necessarily people we live with, but it may be even business or friends, because we also have, we have interaction with friends that sometimes you may not agree politically or religiously or whatever, right? Or spiritually. That like attracts like, and I kind of lost what I was going to say here for a second. And the importance of, I don't know, say something else. It'll come back to me because I just literally left my mind what I was going to say.
You were talking about earlier today, you were talking about being a mirror for each other.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's another aspect of being a spiritual being or being a soul, and that I'm energy, that I, with the echo that I put out, what I'm radiating, if there's some fear there, you might hear people say they're going to attract what they fear, or if I'm a really stubborn person, even though it's about what I think is right, if I get real stubborn about my spiritual beliefs, and I'm just as stubborn as a religious person who's very stubborn about their religious beliefs, or I'm very stubborn just like a political person. So if that stubbornness in someone really stimulates me, I must have a little something there. So, my purpose to be here is to learn and grow, is the bigger picture purpose, is to evolve. I'm a soul evolving. So there's never anything wrong that I'm doing. I mean, there's no mistakes. They're just stepping stones along the journey.
Yeah. So I guess what kind of come back to me now that, after you say that is, especially, as we magnetize the like attracts like, and what are things that I need to experience and uncover for myself, within other relationships, is that sometimes we evolve. And this is where we come into my previous relationship, which was, a great relationship. We were in different places, obviously, with our beliefs, and so I needed at some point to move out of that to come into this relationship with Tom, who has, which I'm learning more at a different level with him. So, when people look at why do people get divorced and why can't they make it work? Well, sometimes it's a bigger picture than that. It really is. It's a bigger picture in the sense of, what do I need to attract to myself right now for my soul's growth? And oftentimes it does come down to that this person is, I'm kind of done with the situation. It's time to move on to the next. And what am I attracting now? And that's kind of how we got together. I mean, it was like literally the planets aligned and everything came together, in a divine way, that in the right timing, that it was time to move together so we can now come and do some of our best work, or what
well, and also evolve, because
right.
There's always challenges. It's not like, I've been thinking about a little bit, I like to think of it from a business perspective, because that's where I've been involved. You probably like to think of things more from a relationship perspective, because, your family, and you've created family, and you've had children and all that. So that's your kind of pivot point of your
Absolutely.
experience, you might say. I mean, in my opinion, right? So in business, there's a lot of folks who find themselves unhappy in jobs, or how people are treating them on the job, or, certain situations seem to come up, and we talked about likes and dislikes, but so they'll look for another job. And then after a while, they start recreating that situation there. And my point here is that if you ever need to leave your job, usually it's because you need to get into a new environment to help you see something that you're not seeing, or, you're not learning something. So you need to get in another environment and see how that hits you. Or you've evolved out of that situation. You've mastered what you're doing there, and, you need a new challenge. So to me, that's very similar to what you're saying about relationships, and does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, it really does resonate with me, because whenever I can only take things so far. And now this is really a bigger spiritual picture, folks, because, I could have stayed in the relationship till death do us part, right? But for what I've come to do, and this is not being narcissistic, this is not being, it's all about me, but it is all about me without the narcissism, okay? Because I'm here on a journey. And so when things are not lined up and I've learned my lesson, so to speak, kind of what Tom's talking about, it's time to move on. And so I've always been that kind of person. I've not held on to things forever and ever and ever. I've moved at the right timings and the right relationships and the right situations in order for the next thing divinely, created and ready for me to open up. So that's what I want to say about that.
Well, there's a couple things I'd like to share. And one that comes to me is I heard recently, I think of a person as the love of my life for that period of time. And I love that. I heard it on somebody else's YouTube, who's a spiritual, a person that shares spiritual things. Mm-hmm. And that really, makes a lot of sense to me. The person was the love of my life for that period of time. And I'm thankful for what I learned and how we worked together and evolved together. And I wish them well. And there's a point where it doesn't fit for, either person really is not going to get, the best out of their experience, but we're not advocating that you go split up with your partners,
no.
Because I think when working with anyone, I have to look at their strengths and what is the strength that I was attracted to? What is that positive quality that I admire? And, you can think of this with your parents, with your siblings, we're all attracted to each other. People say, oh, I don't choose my brothers and sisters and I don't choose my parents. And, I have to suffer along with them. And that's not necessarily true. You're attracted as a soul. And I guess it's better. I mean, there's nothing wrong with thinking anything, but, you might feel happier and freer and more relaxed if you began to just look at the positive side of or just think more about what you like about the person, think of their positive qualities. And, but, when a situation doesn't fit anymore, it's time to, can be time to move on.
Yeah. So what is your perspective on when someone's living with someone and they just don't get them? They think what they're doing is weird. They think that, it's kind of crazy stuff. What's your perspective on that?
Another thing to say is that, what's the purpose of the relationship? What's the purpose of me being here? And if there's a positive purpose and you have some goals that you're united in, leave it at that. I mean, that's a good thing. And also when I'm dealing with, say, other relatives, what's the purpose of this interaction? What am I here for today? Because I'm not necessarily here to save all my brothers and sisters and parents and convert them to my new spiritual ideology. I'm here to just share, learn, and grow. And I respect where they're at. And I require that they respect where I'm at. Mm-hmm. So really that key word of having a purpose in the situation and relationship, knowing what that purpose is or what that reason is you're together, accepting that or moving on from it or creating a new purpose, to stay aligned. And then, respecting each other where they're at. So, we've all tried it because a lot of us, I'll say, we've tried this when we first get involved in spiritual things and we're beginning to evolve and we get so excited about, what's working for us and how different this is and how much more enjoyable it is, that we want everybody to be where we're at. And that's the biggest challenge with loved ones. And I would say that it even happens in our relationship where we have to respect where each person's at as they go through their growing experiences, because we're attracted to each other for some strengths and some areas that we need to shore up. And we're probably attracted to each other for those challenges that they stimulate in us, so that we begin to change those reactions and start working more from our true feelings. And I always come back to this little story, about the man that, thinks everything's going bad. So he moves to Mexico, going to start his life over again. And then sooner or later, he starts attracting all the same troubles. So instead, if I don't embark on some self-discovery and start asking myself, why am I so stimulated by this? Or, I'm not, it's going to reoccur until I begin to take a look at it.
Yeah. So a good scenario about that one is that, my mom, I'm around my mom quite often. She lives close by. And so we're together a lot. And, sometimes she, we'll talk spiritual stuff. She's very, open spiritually and etc. But there are times when things frighten her or scare her. And I totally understand, things that you don't understand yourself. So it might be a scary thing. And years ago, that would have really triggered me because I was scared about things that I didn't understand, that I didn't have a bigger spiritual picture for myself. But now that I do, whenever those things happen for her and she voices something like that, I'm not affected by it. So that's one thing I want to mention about, like you said earlier, about how, some things people have in them, I might have a little bit of that, and that's why it triggers me. Same with, years ago when my mom would say something was scary or frightening, and I'd be like, oh yeah, me too, especially when I was younger, because we had all kinds of energetic things going on in the house and etc. So yeah, I was scared too. But now at where I'm at, my understanding is I'm able to stay calm and go, okay, that's just where she's at. And it makes a big difference. So if you have a loved one in your house that doesn't understand you, or, might think you're going, saying some crazy weird stuff, my best suggestion is just honor where they're at. And also,
it's a good way to say it.
Yeah, just honor where they're at. And also maybe take a look at, do I have some of that in me or not?
Yeah. And also, you can always check with your guidance. Once you learn how to work with your guidance, and you want to share something with somebody, just stop and relax and cleanse and, recheck with your guidance. Is this something I'm meant to share?
Oh, I love that, Tom. You know why? Because for years I shared so much weird stuff. And it's no wonder they all looked at me like deers in headlights, because I was like, oh my God, the stuff I shared was the unseen, lots of unseen weird stuff that I went through as a massage therapist, healer. And so, yeah, that's really important.
Also for me, there's times where I really need to be direct and say something clear, and when I'm channeling something from spirit, from my guidance, that's a healing message, or it's, kind of a wake up call for the person, or I might be establishing my boundaries. Don't talk politics with me. I'm here to help you with the food, or if you're going to you can talk politics with me, but respect my point of view. Don't try to change me. Nobody wants to be changed. And, we all react similar. Most of us react pretty similarly to all that. So guidance is a big key, and your sensitivity, if you'll just know, am I stepping over? And really the key to that is just practicing it, because there's going to be times when you get stimulated and you're going to want to just say it. And there's times through practice, at least just keep practicing, you'll smooth all that out. There's a saying, it's not the family that prays together that stays together. It's the family that respects each other.
I like that. And that's a really good place to stop.
Yeah.
That's a good ending moment there, Tom. I love it so much. So we hope, listener, that you might have gotten some insights for yourself and around those that maybe are close to you in your environment, as far as business or at home, and people you play with, people socialize with. So, and just giving a bigger picture perspective on how to, how to honor where you're at and with your beliefs, and how to also honor them and where they're at, and not let it trigger you like it has in the past for me. So Any last moment, last thing you want to say, Tom?
Just reinforce that, we're just practicing. So
Oh, that's
the
so
more
good.
that I respect each other and we respect where somebody's at. And one other little key that's been shared with me is that, you might say people have crutches in how they think of things. And I would never kick out a crutch before they already began to heal or they've replaced it with a different crutch.
Right.
Respect where they're at. And the main thing is I focus on me for what I need to do to learn and grow. And probably the final thought is every time I share about this, I'm sharing from that perspective of love. If I'm not, it is all about me in my journey because no one can evolve for me. I have to evolve for myself in my journey of self-discovery. But I pivot from that loving, creative, kind, respectful force. That's what to me is all about. And all the great religions really talked about that.
That's beautiful. And I totally 100% agree also because the times where I'm at now and my understanding and my staying relaxed with where people are at, it's helped me so much with interacting with anyone. Like I can interact with anybody, no matter what your religion, your background, whatever, I can interact with you because I just see you as a soul. So it's soul to soul and I can honor where you're at and the journey you're at. So, yeah.
It's a religious idea that we have to save people. It's a spiritual truth that we're all already saved. We all are going to make it and everything's going to be okay.
Booyah to everything being okay. High five on that one, Tom.
High five.
Thank you all for listening into another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. We hope that you enjoyed this kind of what's up spiritually. Let's chat about those around us and the different relationships we have. So we hope that you got some little tidbits.
Yeah,
for
these
yourself.
Are great questions, and keep those questions and cards and letters coming, folks. And
cards and letters, emails. No,
because the great thing about working with each other and having people to share with is that you may share something and you that stimulates a solution for me, and I may share something that stimulates a solution for you.
Absolutely. And also, during this time frame, as I'm taking this, creative pause, if you guys do need some enthusiasm, some daily enthusiasm, please check out Teresa Shantz' Facebook page because I'm always on there doing lives, reels, sharing a lot of really good insights and some enthusiastic posts. So that's a good place to go to check out, what's kind of going on and just, get some good mojo for yourself.
And of course, there's always a Soulquake Survivor Guide.
Oh yeah, there's that little book. There's also the book, and you can find the link for the book in the show notes if you're interested in finding out more about the 12 spiritual awarenesses, some insights for yourself on how to really gather together your spiritual part of who you are, so it can help you get through any kind of earth-shaking times or any kind of soul-quaking times that you might be going through.
Yeah, and don't wait for the Soulquake to buy the book. Get it in advance so you're prepared.
Love that. So guys, until next week, remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey.